One day, in the land of Israel, while it was being ruled over by the Philistines, there was a barren married woman in Zorah. An angel came to her and spoke, saying,
You will have a son that will become judge over Israel. He will be a Nazarite all the days of his life.
This meant that the baby was to never drink alcohol, become ceremonially unclean, or cut his hair. Eventually, she did have a son, whom she called Samson. He continued to grow and was blessed. The Spirit of God was upon him. One day, when Samson was all grown up, he saw a beautiful Philistine woman, and he wanted to marry her. His parents didn't want him to marry her as she was a Philistine, and it was against God's law for Israelites to marry Philistines. But his parents let Samson do so anyway, because God was using this opportunity to confront the Philistines. In the days prior to the wedding, while Samson was on his way to Timnah, a large lion approached him, and God gave Samson the strength to rip the lion apart. Later on his way to the wedding, he came upon the lion's corpse, and he ate some honey from a bee's nest in its body. Samson finally arrived at the wedding, and there was a large feast. Samson made a bet with some men there. If they could answer his riddle, he would pay them with garments, and vice versa if they couldn't. The men agreed, and Samson told them his riddle.
Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet.
The answer was the lion and the honey that came from it. But the men couldn't come up with the answer for 3 days. Then on the 4th day, they coerced Samson's bride into telling them the answer, thus winning the bet. Samson pieced together what had happened, and was furious. With the Spirit of God upon him, he killed 30 Philistines and used their garments to pay the men. Samson then stormed off and went home. Then the father of the bride gave his daughter to Samson's best man instead. Samson later returned expecting to be with his wife again, so he went to her father's house. The father explained what had happened and instead offered Samson the younger sister of Samson's now ex-wife. This angered Samson even more. So he set many foxes aflame and sent them into the Philistines' grain fields. Thus the Philistines' grain fields were quickly destroyed by the fire. This made the Philistines furious. So they went to the Israelites and made them return with Samson bound. Samson willingly went, and when he was among the Philistines, he was easily able to break free of his bindings. He picked up a donkey's jawbone and killed 1,000 Philistines with it. Samson eventually fell in love with a woman named Delilah. Little did he know, the Philistines began to talk with Delilah and offered to pay her a sum of money to find what weakened Samson and exploit it. Delilah tried 3 times to ask Samson what his weakness was, but each time he lied to her. So each time the Philistines tried to capture Samson, he quickly defeated them. However, Delilah asked a 4th time, and Samson finally told the truth. His strength came from him not cutting his hair. So Delilah cut his hair while he was asleep, so when the Philistines arrived again, they quickly overpowered and captured Samson. The Philistines gouged out Samson's eyes and presented him to the Philistine rulers at the temple of Dagon. They praised the false god Dagon, saying that he was the reason they defeated Samson. However, Samson humbled himself and asked God to give him strength one last time. So God allowed Samson to break 2 pillars, causing the temple to collapse. This resulted in the death of 3,000 Philistines and Samson himself.